Hotep, I'm Dr. Gloria Lattimore Peace, host and producer of OmniU Presents the H3O Art of Life show. Today's show is called Sisters in League, and it's an actual play on words because my guest is Sandra Finley, who is CEO and president of the League of Black Women. And I am so happy that you are here. And I'm very happy to have seen you on YouTube with your presentation at Harvard because I learned so much more about you than your little one-page biography could give me. And one of the things that I learned is that you are very precise with language, that you say what you mean and you mean what you say. And so I want you to tell us about the League of Black Women. First of all, its history, bring us up to date, let us know what's current. And then we want to go into some of your observations, if we can, if we don't run out of the hour.
I'm sure this hour is going to fly right on by, Dr. Peace. I absolutely am sure. But it is my privilege to be here. This is the happiest thing that I was looking forward to today, was this opportunity to spend this hour with you. The League of Black Women was founded in 1970 by Dr. Arnetta Young Boswell, and you would have known her. She was she was a civil rights leader, an educator, first national director of Project Head Start, a presidential appointment, and a woman who lived in Chicago and loved Chicago and also loved the women of Chicago. So in 1970, she and a circle of her friends founded an organization called the League of Black Women. And you might remember that 1970 was a time when black women were just starting to go to college en masse. It meant that you didn't have to be the daughter of a professional in order to have the resources to go, because of the student loan and grant programs from the federal government made it possible for you to sign on a dotted line and go to the college or university of your choice if they chose you. And so we were looking at a migration of young women who were trying to prepare themselves for the opportunities of the future. So Dr. Arnetta Boswell and a team of her friends asked an important question. Right now, these women are going to school presuming that if they do well in school and graduate, the world will wait for them, open arms and doors. And she wanted to know, she wanted us all to start working on a couple of forecasts. What would our world be like if that did indeed happen? And maybe as importantly, based on where we are now, what would our world be like if that did not occur? And so the League of Black Women was organized to do that kind of study, dedicated study to the business of the forecast of our potential. And that is what we were founded to do, and is what we do today.
Well, tell me how you get, first of all, sponsorship for such studies, because those things cost money, and the second, where you get the people or the population to study.
The answer to where we got the money over the past to do the studies that we have, there have been 3 important studies that we've done. Usually is an amalgam of support from other entities. For instance, we might partner with a university to do some of the research work. We might partner with a corporation to actually put the funding in place in order to do it. And then we usually have to partner with other nonprofit organizations to have full access to the database, in addition to our own, that it takes in order to reach out to actually ask the women the question.
And who designs the studies?
We design them ourselves.
Okay.
We usually will get a specialist in that area, or maybe able to get one from the universities that we study with or whatever. But the most important thing is the design itself isn't the mystery, because people know how to design studies. But what the League brought to the business was the content and aiming the study in the right direction to understand things very differently from what most studies about black women focus on. I like to call it our anthropological interpretive power. That is what we have. We know where the nugget is for understanding what's really going on with her. Other studies will compare black women to other women and then talk about the gap. We leave them to it. Thank you very much. It's like putting a thermometer in your mouth against an ideal temperature. But it doesn't say very much about what the ideal state of wellness would be, because you've not asked the woman herself. So the League of Black Women will aim the study towards the difference between not only where we are, but where do we intend to be? What are our goals and our dreams and our expectations of leadership impact? And you will find oftentimes that the assumption is we just want to be included when black women come to lead.
Well, I think that one of the questions that immediately comes to mind is, does it reveal to you that some black women go to college simply because they want to be able to support their families? They don't want to be, they not necessarily seeking a goal, a career goal, but a survival goal. Just how am I going to help my husband take care of our family? How am I going to be independent if I should need to be in the future? Do you ever run across that information, or do you ever seek to get it?
We ask, that's a really good question, because we ask the question oftentimes in our work, what black women expect to get out of the investment that they make, whether it's going to college, choosing a particular career path, working for a specific company, or starting their own business. What is it that you want as an outcome from that? And we oftentimes find that they expect some level of independence to come from the effort, which does not come as readily as we would hope. We oftentimes find women, for instance, black women are heads in a way the most aggressive grabbers of the desire to get advanced education. We are going to school. And when we ask women, so what do you intend to do with that master's or that PhD or whatever it is? And oftentimes the assumption is that if they have it, the institution that they're in will reward them for having an additional capacity or an additional credential. And our understanding is that's not the way you look at it. You have to be clear on how you're going to leverage the tool of it before you determine whether or not you're going to acquire it and invest in what it takes in order to take on the debt, oftentimes, that it takes to do it. So we are looking at two different ways of looking at it. One woman will say, well, I'm sure something good will happen when I get my degree. And she's waiting for the system then to determine what that is.
Right.
Another sister will say, I know full well what this additional credential will do. I intend to use it in this direction. I have people already who have said to me that they will connect with me. And I want to be in a different level of play. And this is the key to entry to that door.
Right.
But they never rely on it by itself to be the full driver to the idea of what their full power will be.
Right.
And that's what's different.
The other thing I noticed that when you talked about, the goals and talked about the, how that corresponds to the actual outcomes, the thing that you said, and I'm trying to recall enough to be able to repeat what you said, which is kind of ridiculous because you're sitting here and can say it yourself. But there's this this gap between the expectations of the black woman who goes to college and expects to have an outcome and what the actual outcome is. As in, for instance, your major is what you expect to what you're getting a degree in is what you expect to be able to use as the career path that you will take. But what happens is, when you come out of college, this major that was very popular during the time that you were taking it somehow vanishes, and the jobs are not in that area anymore. And so even though you have a degree in this major, there's no work in this major. So now you have to try to find employment in some other field, sometimes unrelated to your training. How often do you find that when you do your studies, that you find that there's this huge gap between the expectations of the black woman who goes to school and what's there for her when she comes out?
Well, the good news is that black women, modern black women, don't usually aim themselves at what we call a dunsel or useless industry effort. They pretty much know that if I start here and start working towards there, that industry is growing, there's going to be some opportunity. That's what they know, that's what they believe. It's
a calculated move.
It's a calculated move, usually. The problem will come if her calculus is off because she based it on assumptions that were handed to her by marketeers of education properties rather than actual labor department statistics or other ways to find out what's really growing and what's not. But in any case, she thinks about it and she aims in that direction. Now, here's the problem. The assumption is once I have what I assume that they want, then they will open the door for me to have the opportunity. And then she finds that she graduates and they don't open the door. The companies don't for opportunity. And so she runs around the building, if you will, looking for a way in. Looking for a door in the way in. And then after a while you run and there's no door. And you can see the glass where other people are progressing and moving. And you make a decision. You say, if I find any way in, I'll take it. And then once I get into the company, then I will move over to my right industry. And we found out that doesn't work for her because what she's assuming is that the company is kind of like a big arena. And once you get into the door, then you can run over any part of it. But it's not. It's more like a maze on the inside. And if you come in the door that is wrong for you, it is very unlikely that you're going to work your way over to the door that you should have come in before. Now, what that looks like is I have seen on my various visits to corporations sisters who are essentially held hostage by the fact that they came in, say, the HR door, because that's the one that was open for whatever reason at that time, when they were really perhaps engineers. But the company said, we're not hiring engineers at this time, but we promise you, or we'll come into the marketing door. But if you can just get you in, once you get in, then we will help you move. Well, we find out there's very little help for moving. Not only that, while you're spending time in a discipline where you don't belong, the people who are actually next door in the right space are moving forward with their careers, and you are spending dead time someplace where you shouldn't be. Not only that, the people around you who are there who really belong there are working towards their passion, where you are just tolerating the environment until you can get someplace else. And so you make that decision, you go in the wrong door. It's like going into the wrong neighborhood. You have no friends, you have no support, you don't understand where you are, and most of you never wanted to be there in the first place. It is the worst possible outcome on the other side of the effort to invest in your advanced education. Lastly, the idea that you're going to knock on that door and get someone of power, say from the Department of Engineering, to look at you, you now have been conformed in a way that they don't quite recognize you as their own. They ask you questions. Well, did you do this, that, another? When the other interns or newbies did, and you have to say no, I was doing something else, and they go, well, that's off track. That's not what we would expect of you at this time. So we're now able to tell women, do not enter disciplines that you do not choose to really engage in, because it looks like an opportunity, but really it's a false start.
What of this, what I consider to be a myth, that if you go to school, you will get a good job and you will therefore be able to live the good life? See too much evidence to the contrary. Know people who have, know one in particular who has an MBA and is unemployed. You know, too often we find that it appears that there's some sort of, I don't like conspiracy theory as a concept, but let's just say there could be. There's some sort of agreement somewhere that certain people will not occupy certain positions within certain companies. And, you know, no matter what you bring, you know, no matter what you're holding in your hand, when you're knocking on that door, it has been agreed that they would rather have somebody incompetent at this point and train them than to have somebody who is already running on the ground and who could very easily, you know, rise up. Do you think there's any real weight to that assumption, that there may be just some odds stacked against some people, black women being among them?
Let me just say that whether it's deliberate or not, is almost moot because it functions that way anyway. What you just described is what happens. And so it makes the return on investment for your advanced education or a decision to move across the nation or across the planet, whatever it is, it makes all of that not yield what it's supposed to yield. My sisters are innocent in a way, in that we are still doing oftentimes what we call magical thinking. My sister's a social worker, so she talks about magical thinking, and that is when you wish upon the star of the hope of it. You do what you think you need to do to be prepared for the opportunity, and then someday it will come. When what it really is a situation that's more like chess. You know, you will fight your way across the board, fully aware of what's the left and the right, what your objectives are, what your opportunities are, and always knowing that the battle is given not only to the well-prepared, but to the fortunate. And what makes fortune happen is whether or not there is pull on the other side, rooting for you, willing to help you, willing to pull and support you. We call those people sponsors. And what is missing from the whole trajectory of a black woman's career, I'm moving past getting the job, I'm talking about a career now, is access to sponsorship, which is what the League studied in our most recent study called Daughters of the Dream. Their lack of sponsorship, promotions, and support. We found out, we studied 273 black women nationwide. We asked them, and they were all professionals. Did they have access to sponsorship? Because we found out that without it, the highest you can go in these organizations is mid-level. And most of us don't get to mid-level. Most of us are stuck at the bottom at the base. A few of us get to mid-level, assuming that we are going to now be able to break into senior leadership. And it does not happen because you can't break into it. You must be sponsored. You must be pulled up by someone who is at the executive
level. Not by
your
own bootstraps.
No, your
bootstraps will not handle that.
And it never has and it never will. So it gets to be very important who the leadership is at the upper tiers as to whether or not they will open the doors for black women. And by the way, this isn't charity. This is the way the system works. Because the incentive for the sponsor to confirm that you are going to be their protege has to do with their own interests, you know, in building of talented people, a circle of resources to advance their goals, their leadership goals. And if you've got the juice, then they are interested in what can you do for them. And so it's always worked that way. But we asked the question inside of our research, so who is going to sponsor black women? And not as again, a question of charity, but a question of due and owed in the return for our investment in the system. The people who are directly, if you look at it like a stack of plates, and how the plates change color as you stack them up. The stack on the top are white males. And then the stack just under them are white females. And then the stack under them
are black males.
Or
other males.
Other males, and used to be mostly black males for us, but now other males. And then the stack under those are black women. Now, the problem will be, who is going to pull us up? Well, the stack directly over us, as you say, black males often, they're shrinking in terms of power inside of these companies. You will know people who used to have that kind of job. They don't anymore, and they were never replaced by other black males. So their number is shrinking, and so they don't have the power to pull us across the nation. The other males that will be there aren't interested in us. They are interested in women from their own communities. The group, so I'll just move them to the side for a second and then just talk about our relationship with women, which would be white women at the next level. And the question will be, what would be the incentive for white women to sponsor black women? We know that they're sponsoring other young white women, which is what they've come to do. We say no harm, no foul. But we're entitled to opportunities too under the banner of women. So how are they going to be incented to do that? And we don't have a good answer as to why they would do it. And they're not doing it in proportion to what they're doing for other young white females at this point. Now, let's take a look beyond them to white males. And we ask the question, well, what would it take in order for them to sponsor black women? Directly, just go directly to where the power at the top is. And we find that they generally largely don't even think about it. And so they don't. And when they do think about it, let's just say there's some internal initiative that says, we'll take a look at the women and the diversity of women and whatever, then they delegate that to white women to make that happen. And then there we are.
Back where you started.
And then we're back where we started. So this isn't the talk that says that white women are not, good people or anybody. We're simply saying here's the way the outcome looks. And this is not something that we intend to support or say that we're okay with it at all. We're waiting our turn. Our turn has come and gone, and it's been stolen. You remember that poem, Somebody Stole My Stuff?
Right, right.
They're coming to get our stuff regularly. And our turn in this is one of the stuffs that's been stolen. So now that the League has done its research, and we can explain to black women, like GPS, here's what's really happening.
Right.
Not what you thought it is from ground level, but if you get up this high, the League is at this level, prepared to take a look across the nation, if you will, of opportunity, and we see the same thing happening. Black women in the bottom or not present at all in some of these companies. And each woman feeling it's her own individual set of problems, it's her circumstances. Then when we found out it's not just you, it's us. And we're being system-wide suppressed. Now here's what the cost of suppression is. It's an economic cost, because we also found out black women aren't getting promotions. The ones who have worked, our survey says that there are women who have not received promotions of a significant number in 5 years. 5 years, no promotions. Can you imagine?
A freeze?
Just being, I call it held hostage and suppressed, because you think about what's the impact of that. Because the expense of living in America hasn't gotten any less. It goes up, but your salary doesn't, because you can't get promoted. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and you don't get a promotion, but the expense goes up. Not only that, there comes a space where you actually can earn enough money to pay your bills, and now the next promotion lets you have additional resource for saving.
Or vacationing.
And then investing, joyful living, as you say, but being able to put money in to invest money in another way. But if you never have a job that will let you do anything more than just barely keep up with the pace of the expense that you need to be here, then you are essentially literally drowning slowly, in the debt of it, because we can't earn ahead. Maybe lastly on this point, I want to talk about the difference between the job and the career.
Okay.
We've been told up out of our community, go get a good job. Well, you go get a good job is not the same as saying go and form the pathway for a career, which will have many jobs in it, many jobs in it. But the business of making a career happen in a company that does not want you to have a career, they just want you to have a job, means essentially that black women are being relegated to the status of office furniture. Whereas other people are being invested in as leaders. And that is why we keep hearing the sad refrain from my sisters where they say, and I was doing the job, and they brought so-and-so in.
And promoted that person.
And I had to train her.
Right, that is the insult to injury.
And that happens because she is sponsored. She was only there to learn what she needed to learn about the function, and then she's pulled to the next level. Because you see, she has a career and a sponsor, and you just have a job and a mentor. And the mentor's job is to teach you how to do the job better. You see the difference in equipment. In equipment. So now we're able to tell our sisters what the real hardware is needed in order to make a career happen.
I think about this whole idea of sponsorship, and I recognize that there's a chain here that has ancestry, which means that if I have myself been sponsored by someone, then I have some sort of obligation to the someone going forward. Now, that obligation may be to keep the ball moving in the same direction, or it may be some other kind of obligation, but I must recognize that I have a debt that I owe to my sponsor. So when I'm choosing someone to sponsor, that cannot be missing from my decision. It's in there somewhere whether I recognize it or not. I may not be conscious of it. So that when you're saying the white male or the white female or the other male. You're talking about somebody who are part of a long line of other people who are largely like themselves and who, without being ever needing to be told, will understand that the nepotism is alive and well, and it is expected. And it's kind of like being a Negrophile. If you go off and sponsor this person who is outside, Negro lover, it's kind of like being somebody who is the first white in the neighborhood to sell your house to a black. You're breaking down barriers that we spent ages to erect, and you have therefore in some way betrayed the interests, but certainly you have violated a culture that is unspoken. It just is, and you ought to know without being told. So how then does the black woman position herself to get that person to see excellence as worthy of violating a cultural norm?
The good news is that we are spot on with you on that. The League offers now e-learning. And one of our first e-learning course is just to that purpose. It's called VUCA, LBW, VUCA, for women in pursuit of sponsorship.
Okay.
Now, what VUCA says, VUCA, by the way, VUCA, stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous.
Okay.
Because at the executive level, that's what the area is like. It's volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, and it's ambiguous. And so what VUCA does is, first of all, describe the environment that you seek to enter, because you've not experienced it yet. Usually at the management level, at the manager level and under, you're in charge of a function that you master the particulars on how to do, and then you learn how to do it, and you keep doing it and keep doing it, and maybe you will refine it so that you do a little bit better and get some better outcomes. So most of your focus is on that function. And so now with that accomplishment, you say, I can do more. And you are in the presence of a sponsor, and they say, well, tell me something about yourself. And then we say things like, well, I was manager of this, that, and other. I did so many transactions and so many functions, better than everybody else. And when this other problem came, I had solved it, and then we still did the things better than everybody else. And then the sponsor is listening, going, and they're not hearing what they need to hear. Because all you've essentially told them is that you sat on the nest and hatched that egg. And sometimes you hatch 2 eggs, and sometimes maybe 30,000 eggs, but mostly you are a nest-sitting egg hatcher. And that's not what's done at the VUCA level. And so the VUCA course teaches us to understand our potential and our capacity very differently from the functions of the task that we have done. And also how to communicate those values to the potential sponsors so that now they see how it's possible that they may take your talent, your capacity for problem solving, your unique network that only you have, and other potential resources that you have, and how you communicate those against the sponsor's goals, which you don't even know about yet.
Communicate, keyword.
Yes.
Keyword.
Keyword. And understand what you're asking for.
Right.
You don't know anything about them other than what you want from them.
Right.
So now we need for you to do a reconnaissance that is very different from anything that you've ever done before, which is understand what their responsibilities are, what their goals are, what they've got to accomplish, and now you're able to say a very different statement on your capacity.
And you have to stop and consider deliberately what it is you're going to communicate. You can't, it can't come off the top of your head. You have got to weigh this. When you say chess, you have got to weigh this like a chess move. You cannot play checkers in something that is this vital. What you're talking about now is valuable not only for black women, but it's valuable for black men as well. Because I have an example of someone who is excellent, but who was in a situation where someone in the next level was leaving. I don't know what the reason, pregnancy or something. They were leaving the position. And so there was going to be a vacancy in that position. And this person communicated what I recognize now from our conversation was the wrong message. He said, let me take this responsibility because I can do this job. I can hatch these eggs with the hope, the magical thinking that when they see how capable I am, I'm already showing you, you're already giving me outstanding every time I'm evaluated. So I already have outstanding evaluations. So now what I want to do, before I ask for this promotion, is I want to demonstrate to you, while this woman is making her transition from this place to the next place, that I, in fact, can do this job. I know what this is, and I can do it. Well, don't you know, they not only let him do that job, but the promotion or the job itself disappeared as a separate entity in the company. So now that job, in addition to the job he already had, is his job. So they rewrote the job description. They gave him a raise, but they did not give him a promotion. That is not what his aim was. His aim was to get a promotion. Instead, they gave him
a bigger nest to sit on.
Okay, that's the right way to express it. You know, but I call it some chump change.
It is a chump change.
Because when you've been made a chump and somebody rewards you for it, that's chump change, no matter how much it is.
Well, we find out that what we're doing here is inventing against possibilities where we don't have experience at. And so what we're doing is projecting the experiences that we've had into the idea of what we think might be our future, which we think would be more of, but it isn't actually. See, here's the deal. My people we're raised to work and achieve and be. And we love every one of us. Every one of us, our mama says, you just the sweetest thing. And you can do and you can be and you can grow.
Anything you want to be.
Anything that you want. And so that's what we do. Up out of our families, we are empowered to go and do and be. Anything we want. The limitation comes on what it is that we know to want and how we structure the ask in exchange for what we have to bring to the table. Thing one. Thing two, a sponsor is looking for not someone to do more of what has already been done. A sponsor is looking for someone to help them tame the great unknown. The great unknown. And so they're looking for a raw, pure talent. But the very thing that we are told in our community, whatever you do, don't tell folks what you think you are really great at. You know, that just would be blowing your own horn.
Right.
Instead, they're looking, though, for that. Tell me what it is that you do that is so extraordinary that it could tip the scales for what it is that the leader is trying to do at this top. Do most people know what their CEO responsibilities are?
No.
Do most people know clearly how the business makes its real money? I mean, people would say McDonald's makes money selling hamburgers. They make money on real estate. Always have. You know, it is the place of where the stores are that sends the cashiers of money into the corporate coffers. I was at a McDonald's meeting, it feels like 100 years ago, and there was the then CEO, long time ago, walking, like Chris walks across the stage, that catwalk, across the stage at one of these big mass meetings, walking as he talks, walking as he talks. And he took a question from the audience, and one of the owner-operators, I believe, said, so what will we be selling in the future? And this CEO said, he paused like I'm pausing, he said, I don't know what we'll be selling, but I know this, whatever we sell, we'll sell more of it than anybody else. And that is the CEO mandate. To see the difference, somebody in the hierarchy there is concerned about how many McDonald's hamburgers are being sold, and how many I can get off my grill, or how many can come out of my store. And
are we going to go back and have the product that they've rejected before? We're bringing that back.
You know, whatever. But the CEO his job or her job is to be concerned with staying at number one position, staying at number one position. That's what we do, and whatever we need to sell to do that is what we're going to consider. We're not wedded to the burger. We're wedded to the transactions.
The burger was a launching pad.
We're wedded to the transactions. And so understanding how the business is actually structured will tell us where our opportunities are.
Well, you know, when they have career days at school, people don't come in and talk to young people like this.
No.
You know, they say, well, I got my job. I went to this school. I took these courses. You know, I went to summer school. I did some stuff online. And they tell you all the mechanisms, all the little strategies that they use in order to earn the degree. And then they tell you that, you know, they applied for this job and they got this job and they've been working here, you know, for X number of years, you know, and they got promoted, as though this is just the normal scheme of things. This is the way it goes. You go to school, you get a good job, you live the good life. And, you know, when you think about our leadership, they're always saying, we want jobs. You know, if you get somebody running for public office, they always want to say, we got to create more jobs. What you're saying is make the distinction, because nobody really wants a job. Everybody wants a source of revenue, but they do not want to be pigeonholed into a corner
and locked in
this is
forever.
Where they are forever. They will still be stamping, you know, stamping forms and setting them aside for the rest of their lives.
When you are detached from the innovation of your industry, when what you do can very easily be obsolete, because somebody else can be told to do it, they may contract it out, or determine we're not doing that anymore. Whenever you're in that kind of vulnerable space, which is what you will be in when you only consider a job, then you are, it's a very quick couple of steps till the fact that you are looking for one again. If, on the other hand, you determine you want a career, now that's different. There will be many different tasks or jobs within the process. There will be many different opportunities. Maybe you'll practice the movement of your career here, or maybe over there in another state or another part of the planet, or from home at your computer, whatever it might be. But the point is, you are innovating while the industries are innovating. And what I was saying before about the business of the job, we are aiming our children into obsolescence if what we do is aim them towards just a function. What we need to do instead is understand, while we're looking in their little faces and say, you're so cute, I love you so much, and you can do anything and be anything, then they need to know that we are at the same time sending them into corporate institutions, which are only interested at most between 5 and 15% of that population to promote into leadership. Yet we're sending every one of our kids
in that same direction.
In that same direction for those very few positions at the top, because we keep sending leaders, which is our advantage, by the way. But we don't tell them these are the processes and the procedures of leadership. We keep aiming them towards the job. The job. And then they fight like everything to hang on to this job when the industry is moving along. And we have not taught them, here's how you not only move with it, but you move in front of it. I call this your career being in motion. It is in motion. You are not going to say, yes, I accept an opportunity to work here for stability. You are not saying yes to the comfort of everything being where it was the day before. You are stepping into a moving thing so that you can learn to fly and float and swim, or whatever motion looks like. Old Harry Potter movies, inside of Hogwarts, there were stairs that moved. You know, you go up a staircase and then you get halfway up and it was moving. So it wasn't going to be where it was yesterday. And so that is at the very least what the real industry looks like. The staircases move. And more importantly, the way up may not be stairs at all. It may be where we take flight. Now let me tell you what we got going. Our people are incredibly innovative.
Of course.
Incredibly innovative. So what we're asking us to do now is understand how we understand what we really bring to the table. It is more than our labor. It is our incredible talent to consider other possibilities as to how things get done. Right? That's what we do. Over and over and over again. We are absolutely unstoppable. Unstoppable. Really. We create and do. I know
it's
women who
making a way out of no way, and back in the day.
In this day.
It's improvisation within the music world.
In this day. We're still doing it in this day. Our problem is we aren't monetizing it, so we don't get the full benefit of what we do. We create an innovation, and then we hand it to someone else.
You do it.
And we hand it to someone else. There's a woman who has and I want to talk about this in a second, and it's about the importance of switching over to enterprise versus just a focus on a job.
I'm on my way there too. Let's go together.
Let's go to there.
Okay.
And this woman, she has a book, and she owns a company that makes the honey syrup.
Okay.
And but I enjoyed her book, and I invited her to speak at the League conference some years ago. And there was a chapter in her book, because what she done is use a family recipe of a honey syrup, and she put it on grocery store shelves. That was the big whoop. Michelle Hoskins, that's her name.
Okay. Okay.
And there's a chapter in her book though called Sticky.
Okay.
And because in the journey to get this business to the place where the product could appear on shelves, they were actually filling up bottles of this syrup, this homemade brew, in the house, in the basement of the house, to fill the orders. And the workforce are her children. She's using her children. And one of the children says, "It's sticky. Everything is sticky everywhere. It's just sticky." Because she didn't have a proper workforce there. And I'm saying that my sisters have the capacity to actually engage their entire communities in efforts to get things done.
Right.
Just because we love each other and we help each other. We do what we've always done. So we have resources outside the job and the little things that it does. The problem is that when we accomplish amazing things through our resources and through our network and our families and whatever, and then we come back to the job with the job done. And then the people who evaluate it, the manager says, "Thank you, good job." But because we never made the company actually accountable for what it really took to put it in place, they give you that assignment again without the resources that you needed in the first place. And they tell you things, well, the budget won't allow it and all that sort of thing. Well, what we really need to say in the face of that, is, well, Jeff, the budget won't allow it. It looks as though you can't have what you want. I want to give it to you, but you can't have what you want. Now you're talking about something that concerns Jeff. What? Because Jeff wants it because his boss told him, get it done. So now he leans forward. Well, what do you need? Instead of her saying, well, I'll work it out some way, and that sort of thing. So we keep inhibiting the organization's ability to grow by not prompting it with the need to invest in us and the resources that it takes to get things done. And that has to do with that we carry the values from our community and our home into the workplace. In our home, we find ways to get everything done. I want to have a big dinner and I don't have pots and pans I need. I call you. Can I borrow your pots and pans?
Or bring something over in
and bring something over, which is entirely important in the community, but may not be important and should be done in the corporation that way. Yet at another level, perhaps, let's say I get to be the protege of a sponsor, and I get an assignment to do something that only I can do because I have a relationship with you and they don't enjoy it. So now I may get an assignment that says, listen, we want to do X, Y, this, that, another. Dr. Peace has that access. Do you think, Sandra, you can bring her to the table? And then now I have to determine what's in it for Dr. Peace when I do, and what's in it for me, based on what's in it for what it is that my sponsor has asked for. I know what's in it for them. They are going to get something done that they want to do, but how are we going to make Dr. Peace whole? Because that's my job as the broker in between. Not only serve the corporation, but I must serve my community at the same time. At the same time. And sometimes Dr. Peace may or may not know what the full resources are of this company. So when she says something like, well, it would be nice if we had a little bit more this, that, and that, I go, oh, no, Dr. Peace. That's not what we do here. We do this. And so what you want to do is connect up with what we do, not necessarily only to get more, but the closer you are in harmony with what we actually do, the more likelihood that this relationship will stay and knit.
And be beneficial.
Mutually, mutually beneficial, because now I understand what they do, and now I am here to tell you, my community sister, what you would not have known except for you sent me into it to learn it. And so now we have the full sequencing of it. And now we have the full sequencing of it. The League of Black Women did not used to know things this well, this way. We used to know what we could know, and those are good days. And that is when we told each other stories. And I would tell my story of what was happening at my job, and you would tell your story of what was happening at your job, and then we try to listen and understand, well, how can we work this out? How can we work this out? And then we would. I would figure out how to help you, you would figure out how to help me, but we hadn't figured out how to scale the help. So that, because this is a trap that you and I are trying to get out of, this mud hole. And we figured out how to get out of it, but the mud hole is still here. What about we tell the others who are coming, mud hole, mud hole. This is how you deal with it when you get to it. And if you do these things, perhaps you can avoid it altogether. But if you do get mud on you, don't despair. We already know what to do about it. And so you anticipate it. The same with opportunity. Sometimes we don't recognize opportunity. There was a woman who was head of IT, I believe, some years ago, a sister at Walmart, and we were talking, and she talked about a thing that concerned her. When she took that opportunity there in Bentonville, she was looking forward to making the opportunity available to work in this area, this growing area, with students from HBCUs. But her recruiters were telling her that they didn't want to take the job because they were going to have to come to Bentonville. And I said, it's the wrong offer. She said, what do you mean? I said, maybe they can't know to come to Bentonville to work for Walmart. Maybe you have to tell them to come to you. Come to be with you. That is what we are accustomed to, and that is the last thing we think to put on the table. Come to me. What I'm doing here is not being done anywhere else on the planet. And I want you a part of that. And yes, we are doing it in Bentonville. Or we're doing it in Mississippi, or we're doing it in California. But come to me. Other people have figured out, come to the right leader. And then you're in a zone you actually can flourish in. When the president was first elected, he made offers to very talented people who were making big money. Come to Washington and be part of what I'm doing here. People had to walk away from money, but they understood the opportunity.
Because he was really saying, come to me.
Come to me. Come to me. And many of them got it, and others didn't. The ones that did get it, they are it today. The ones that didn't get it, the ones who did this and did the calculus wrong, they wish they could get the call again. They're on the outside of something that is matured and being built up. And so we are now to the place where we have to teach our sisters to say to one another, come to me. I will take care of you. At one of our conferences, one of the, after the conference was over, I went to a resort that I wanted to see. It was the one that Sheila Johnson has built in Middleburg, Virginia.
Oh, really?
Her resort that she built from the ground up, an amazing thing. And while I'm sitting there in the dining room, a young woman is my server, and she comes up, and I always notice my little sister, my sisters. When I see my sisters, I talk to them, whatever, find out what they're doing and whatever. And I asked this young woman who was waiting table what she was doing and what was her whatever. And she's essentially back and forth between bringing me my this and that, and she was able to get her story out. And she was a veteran, and she had been honorably discharged because she had been injured. But she'd also had a child who had recently died, and I think her father also had died. So in the space of a short amount of time, she came in from serving, and she'd been hurt, her baby had died, and her father had died, and all of this. And I said, and you are doing this? She says, this is pretty much all I can manage right now. I mean, it starts at a certain time. I can come and do the job, and when it's over, I can go home, and that's all I have the bandwidth for in the light of all of this hardship that had come on her. So I said, here's my card. Call me when you feel that you want to look at other things. And she did call me a few months later. And she says, I kept your card, and so I've called. And what is it that you see might be possibilities? I said, well, the good news is you're a veteran, which means right now you go to the front of the line. And what you need is a good government job. All right? You need, that is the environment that you understand. That is the environment that values what it is that your service has meant. And that is a great opportunity for you. A good government job, and you will go to the front of the line right now. And then she said, amazing. But then you could tell, she said, how to do that? Because again, she'd been in the service, but she had not been a officer. And she said, how to do that? And so I said, just a minute. And I dialed and got a sister on the phone who was where they never are, right there at her phone. And she had been a speaker at our conference who worked for the government in the military area. Sponsor. And I got both of these women on the phone. I explained who to what and what. And this sister said, there's an amazing opportunity for you with the government. And she says, I need for you to go to the website, blah, 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 .gov, blah, whatever. She said, fill out the application. She said, there's an opportunity for you to work with my division, but you can get hired faster if you work with this other division. And so this young woman is on the line, and I intervened. I said, work for her. Get to her, the one who's taking an interest in you. You know, even if you have to wait a little while, work for her. And then the sister from the government said, here's what I commit. She says, if you start this process, I won't leave you until we get it done. I won't leave you until we get it done. You imagine what that is?
Yes, that's commitment.
That's it, until we get it done. And I hung up the phone that day and I said, that's what we do. That's what we do. Not only do we do it, we know to do it. Because she didn't know, the young woman didn't know, the sponsor in the government program who was speaking at our conference wouldn't have known. Our job is to make those connections. And then also to help with the decision making based on what our research has shown that we don't know. And so the League of Black Women is your GPS. I can't think of a single sister out here who's anywhere listening to or can be talked to by someone who is listening who is not a member of the League of Black Women today. This is where you go get your head right about how you are going to make it happen. The thing that you have to make happen. The thing that you cannot trust to the systems to make happen. Can we switch over to business ownership?
Go right ahead.
All righty.
I was going to tell you a little something on the way to that.
Go for it.
Okay. Thank you for permission.
My head.
Listen, I was thinking about, oh no, I can't. We only got 5 minutes. So I'm not telling any anecdote. Go ahead to the, go ahead.
With the business ownership?
Yes.
All righty. Our millennials, our young people now are not as in love with the idea of working for a big corporation as the boomers were. They have a sense of self-determination. They want to do what they want to do in this world. They understand that they'll be working for the majority part of the vital years of their lives, and they want to do it themselves. And so we are now looking at a situation when two populations are available to reseed our minority business class. I don't even call it minority because I don't even know what that number means.
Minority.
So government used that term. It'll come up, but our black business class. So we have young people now who want to do it. They want to own their own enterprises and do. And then we also have a lot of talented black people who've been shaken loose from the corporations, who have skills and experience and MBAs and the like. And desire. And they are trying like crazy to get back into the company, but maybe what they should do is, and instead apply their talents to some burgeoning enterprise that needs their skill in order to go to the next level. And I use the word enterprise instead of just entrepreneur, because entrepreneur is so focused around that one individual leader who drives it all, but an enterprise is bigger than that. And I think we have to get big. Our businesses have to get big. We have to grow. We have to learn to get just about this big, and instead of growing incrementally over years, we have to eat the business, eat your competition and get big. You know, and then acquire another piece of something and get big and then jettison something to make room for something else. That is how you get to be a cause for concern and a power broker in this space. We have to get big. We got to scale. And that is what we're not doing, that we need to aim at now. And our young people are made for this. That is that.
Well, you know, I'm sorry that we ran out of time, but we knew we would.
Yeah.
But I was going to tell you that there was somebody who was with a corporation during a time when there was a great shortage of sugar, and their product absolutely required sugar. And this person created, out of his own genius, a substitute for the sugar so that the product never had to cease or limit production, but that it was able, when other companies were struggling to keep their products on shelves, this company was able to just sail right through it. And so I kept saying to him, whenever you write a memo, whenever you're doing a presentation, always make them aware of what it is you are doing, because you can't just do these things and let somebody say good job. You know, like you've got to make this a matter of record. You have to put it in the memos. You have to put it into the record that these are things that you're doing, and this person did that and continued to get promoted and given greater regions and so forth and all to manage. But eventually the notion that I can do this myself came to mind, and this person founded their own company, and of course did it extremely well, because they had in fact been running essentially the company that they were with.
We have to send an army of young people to that opportunity, into enterprise again. And at the same time, our relationship with the corporations have to change. There was a time when companies like Disney and U.S. Cellular used to support the League of Black Women. They don't do that now.
Oh,
they have
really?
determined they don't need to, and they don't, and whatever. And I'm thinking that enough of that. If they don't support the League of Black Women, why in the world are we supporting them?
Right.
Why?
It should be reciprocal.
It must be
And
reciprocal.
if it's not, then it's a dead-end street, and you're just water flowing to a desert.
Water flowing to a desert. Because what the League of Black Women knows will help their companies be much better. And they have to be better environments. Otherwise, we're sending our young people into essentially bad corporate neighborhoods. And at the same time, we also have to be supportive, not as an afterthought, but as a major thrust and focus on what enterprise looks like for our young people, so that we can now rebuild and reseed our business class for the independence and self-determination with regards to economic impact that we deserve as people in modern times. I see our outlook as amazingly good. The League's work is to be that scout ship up ahead of the motherships. And what we do is tell the mothership,
Over this way.
Over this way.
I love it. I enjoyed you so much. I wish you could stay. I would just keep right on going into the next show and just keep you going, because you have so much to offer. And I will have to have you back.